aggregate functions. So these functions make it much easier to find, for example, the maximum and the minimum and things like that. So the aggregate functions are max, min, average, sum, and count. So count will tell you the number of rows that satisfy a condition. So so if you say select max of salary, min salary, average salary, and count. So count star is just count the number of rows from employee. So the output for this is going to be, so you'll have max, min, average, and count. And then so the max out here is 55,000, the salary. So we print that out. The min is 25,000. Okay, so the average is 35125, and the count of the number of rows. So it counts out the number of 8. So so you don't have to write, with cross products and things like that. I mean, you have readily available functions that will give you all of this. So if you add, so the same query, if you say select max salary, let's say, and then you say last name DNO from emp. So so out here, and so you would think that, okay, so this should print out, so the max salary, the person with the max salary is James at 55,000. So you would expect the output to be 55,000 Borg and department number 1. But if you run this, the output that you're going to get is going to be slightly different. It will be max so you get the 55,000, but the last name is going to be Smith and 5. Okay, so what it has done is that it has gone and picked the first row from this table. It got the right max, but it didn't print out the last name and the D number of the person earning the highest salary correctly. So what I want to say is that this query is not correct. This is not the way to write a query where you want to print the last name and the department number of the person earning the maximum salary. It doesn't work that way. You'll have to do other things in order to print that out. So in fact, in some versions of the SQL, and I don't know what is the setting on MySQL on Basalt. This, in fact, if you write a query like this, you might even get an error. So I don't know about the settings on Basalt. On my machine, it doesn't give me an error. It just prints this out. But sometimes you can even get an error because it is not going to print. It doesn't make, in this query, what it's really asking is select max salary from emp. So that's really what it's doing. So when you put in last name and D number, it depending on the settings, it'll either give you an error or it picks up the first row from the database. So later on, you'll be able to figure out how to print the name of the person who earns the maximum salary. Okay, so let's say that I do an update command. So I just want to show. So I say update set salary is equal to null, where salary is equal to 55,000. Okay, so I'm changing one of the um, um, I'm changing one of the rows. So it was 55,000, not 50,000. So instead of Borg earning 55,000, I'm going to make it null. So then if I give a command, select max salary, salary, count salary, average salary. From emp. So now it will print out, so you're going to have, so max, min, count, average. So it'll change the values based on what you gave. So now you're going to have maximum will be 43,000. The min is still 25,000. So now the count, because I wrote down count salary and I set salary to null. So when it gives a count, it's going to give you 7. It won't give you a count of 8. So there were 8 rows, but now it'll give you a count of 7. But if I had said, instead of giving, and let me just put down the average salary, so that would be 32,000. And again, when it's calculating the average, it is going to divide by 7, not by 8, when it calculates this thing, the average. But like, for example, instead of writing count of salary, if I had written count of star, instead of salary, star means it should count all the rows, then it would have printed 8 rows, not 7 rows. So that's the thing, you have to keep in mind, is that if you want to print all the rows of a table, then you should use count star, because if you give a specific column and there are null values in the column, then it'll print, it won't count the columns that have null values. Okay, so that was it about the straightforward, the simplest form of using these functions. So now let's look at the next one. So I'm saying select max. So okay, so now I'm writing DNO at the end. So remember earlier I said that if you added DNO and all out here, it gives you a meaningless answer. But now I'm again adding DNO out here, and then from emp. But now I'm going to use a group by statement in this. So we have group by DNO. So what this is doing is that it'll count all these aggregate functions will be done based on D number. So the output for this particular query is going to be, so max, min, count, DNO. So we are going to have an output, so department by department. So we have the department 1, we have department 4, and we have department 5. So for 1, it's 55,000. The min is also 55,000, and the count is 1. For 4, it is 43,000, 25,000, and there are 3 rows with employee there. And then for last, you have 40,000. And then you have 4 rows. Okay, so that's how, if you wanted to get your aggregate functions based on some particular field in the, or some particular attribute, you use the group by clause. Okay, so I'm just going to keep doing examples and you can just see whether, if you have any questions, just jump in and ask. So the next one is, okay, so select max, min, salary, count, star, DNO from M. So now if you want, you can also do by condition. So I could say where salary is greater than 25,000. So I want to pick up the aggregates, but I want to remove all those rows that are who are earning less than or equal to 25,000. So if you look in this, so if I just get this much, the output is going to be, it would be, let's see, so max, min, count, DNO. So where salary is greater than 25, so anyway, 55,000 is still the greatest. So we have 5500. So now the min is greater than 25,000. So that's going to be 30,000. And the count of the number of rows that are there are going to be 5. And then because you've got D number, it just picks the very first D number out there. So it just prints that out. Because that D number actually makes no sense in this particular query. If you want D number to make any sense, you should use the group by, you would have to say group by DNO. Then you're going to get the output that, for all the 3 departments. So then you're going to get the output. So now you're going to get, so now the count will be, it removes all the people who get less than equal to, and for each of the departments. So we're going to have this. Okay, so now suppose you also want, so here I was doing a where condition based on one of the fields in the employee table. Now, suppose I want to do a condition, suppose I want to only print out, where salary is greater than 25,000, but suppose I don't want to print, I also want to print out only in the case where the count is greater than 1. So I don't want to print out these 2 rows because here the count is equal to, okay, this one has a count is equal to 1. So I want to print out, I think I got the count wrong. Just one second. Let's see. Its count is 1, 4 for 4. When it's greater than 25,000, it is 1. Yeah, I think for count for this should be 1.
Yeah, I think it's 113.
Right, because it's, oh, I deleted the wrong thing. Just these 2 look exactly the same. for this one. I think that one was correct. Oh, now what was it? 145. And this should be department 143. This was okay. And for this one, for 5, there were 4. Okay, so this was where salary is greater than 25,000. So this was count as 1 for 25,000. For 4 would be 1, so 2. So you only have one person out there. I'm sorry, I got the count out there wrong. So we have 1 here, and for 5 you have 1, 2, 3, 3 people. So yeah, should be 131. I got that wrong. Yeah, so now suppose I want to print out, yeah, that's a sidebar. So suppose I want to print out all those rows where the count is greater than 1. So I don't want to print out these. The way you would write that query would be select maximum. So you select from employee where salary greater than, so where salary is greater than 25,000. So we have group by DNO. Okay, so the thing is, you can't just write, you cannot say where salary is greater than 25,000 and count star is greater than 1. You can't write like that. You cannot use aggregate functions with you cannot use aggregate functions with the where. You have to use the having function. So this is wrong. You can't do like this. So so the way you would write this would be group by DNO having count star greater than 1. So whenever you use aggregate functions, you need to use this, the having. You cannot connect it in the where. So for output for this one is going to be, just the one row that we wanted, which is 40,000, 30,000, 3, and 5. Okay, so so if you have any questions, you can jump in. So they are actually, well, I don't want, sometimes they can be tricky, so you have to be careful. Okay, so let's look at this next query. So list the number of employees who work in each department. So it's just a subset of the previous one, because that's really what I'm doing in all of these queries about, is I'm listing the count. So doing something like this is you just have to write select count star D number from employee group by DNO. So that will print out the count of the employees in each department. But suppose I want to print both the name of the department and I want to print the count of the employees in the department. So then, so the output that I want is, suppose the output that I want should be D name and count. So not department number, but department name. So then I have headquarters. There's one person. In admin, there are 3 people, and in research, there are 4 people. So that's what I want to print out. So in this case, you can also, so it doesn't have to be a single query. You can join tables. So in this case, you would write the query as follows. It would be select dname. So instead of count, suppose I want to write, so you can say count star has, or has number of employees, from M join department, on D number is equal to D number, group by DNO. Okay, so you can just, so it doesn't have to be a single table. You can join tables, it's perfectly fine. And if you want, you can add stuff to it. So if you wanted to just print where max salary greater than 40,000. So, so then it'll just print I guess department number 5, which has max salary greater than 40,000. So, so so you can combine all of these different things. So the things I showed out here is the aggregate functions, and with the group by and the having count. So any questions so far? Okay, and so in the group by, just like order by, where you could order by first name and then last name, things like that, in the group by, you can order also by, by different attributes. So let's look at this next query. So we have select supervisor, social security number, D number, so group by, suppose I want to group by supervisor social security number, and then within supervisor social security number by D number, I can do that. So the output for this particular query would be so 8886 is supervising employees from departments 4 and 5. So it'll come out in 2, and then you have and 2. And then finally, if you look on the last row, there's James Bock, whose supervisor social security number is null. So even that row is going to appear. So you'll have null, DNO is equal to 1, and count is equal to 1. So yeah, so I guess this was all some of the basic queries that you can do with this. Any questions? I don't think there's really that much to say with any of this stuff. I mean, it's just basic. So all you have to remember is that if you want, I mean, you have to do not use the aggregate functions with the where. Always when you're using aggregate functions, you need to use, make sure that it's within the having clause and not the where clause. I would say that's the thing to remember. And also, if you, for example, are printing supervisor social security number and D number, make sure you're grouping by those 2 attributes when you have when you have aggregate functions. Okay. Okay, so let's take a look at this next query. So this is going back to the very first query that I did out here, where I was saying that suppose I want to print the max salary, the person who earns the maximum salary in the employee table. And I said that you cannot do it like this. If you want to print the person, so let's go and see how would we print the name of the person earning the maximum salary. So that's the query. So list the last name of M who earns so list the last name of the employee who earns the maximum salary. So the output that I would like should be Borg, who earns 55,000 salary. So that's the output that I'm looking for. Okay, so let's look at different ways of doing it. I'll eventually get to the right answer. So the first one we already did. If I wrote down select last name max salary from employee, and I've shown this earlier, you're going to get it's not going to give you the right answer. It's going to give you actually Smith and 55,000 for this one. So you're not going to get the right answer doing this. So let's look at another way of doing it then. So let's do the second one is select from M. So now let's use the where or the having clause. So let's say that I say where salary is equal to max salary. So maybe that's one alternative. Yes, I've got max salary in there, but so I'm saying where salary. So, okay, so if that gives you an error, so you can try this out in MySQL and you see that, okay, I'm getting an error and you're getting an error because you're using the where function with max. So then let's say, okay, I'm going to do having salary is equal to max salary. But if you try even doing it, saying having salary is equal to max salary, you're going to get, it's going to flag errors in both of these cases. This is not the way to solve this particular query. So here, and so you can try this out, neither one of these will work. So maybe what I can do, because it's going to be the end of class anyway right now, maybe you could think about it. I mean, I'll do this. I'll continue with this lecture in the next class, but I would like you to think about how would I do this query, list the last name of the employee who earns the maximum salary. And again, I want you to use aggregate functions anyway, but how would you do this query using aggregate functions? So are there any questions? Okay, so if you don't have